Welcome to Be Believe Become TV. This is Building Your Core, Crafting a New Self-Image, a guided audiobook on shaping who you become by shaping what you repeat. Listen slowly. Let the ideas settle. Now, let's begin building your core, crafting a new self-image, transforming the stories you tell yourself into the identity you want to live. Chapter 1. What shapes your self-image? What exactly is self-image? In essence, it's the mental picture you hold of yourself, your sense of your own worth, abilities, and overall identity. This self-image forms from many sources. Part of it comes from how you see yourself, your own perceptions of your personality, appearance, and abilities. Part of it comes from how others have seen and treated you throughout life, and a significant part comes from how you think others see you. In other words, the stories you tell yourself about how the world perceives you can powerfully shape how you perceive yourself. Your self-image did not appear out of nowhere. It's largely a product of learning and experience. From early childhood, we all start absorbing messages about who we are. A child might hear, "You're so smart," or "You're clumsy," and take those words to heart. Our first heroes, our family and caregivers, reflect back a version of us, and we internalize it. Early successes and failures in school, comments from teachers and friends, and the way other children treated us on the playground all plant seeds. Over time, those seeds grow into beliefs. I am good at this. I am bad at that. People like me. People don't like me. These beliefs become part of the narrative of who we think we are. Social and cultural factors also weave into our self-image. Perhaps you grew up in a community that valued academics, and you came to identify as the smart one. Or maybe media images made you feel inadequate about your body, shaping a negative body image even when others told you that you were fine. Our environment subtly teaches us standards and labels, what it means to be successful, attractive, or worthy. Without realizing it, we often measure ourselves against those external benchmarks, and when we feel we don't measure up, our self-image suffers. Think about adolescence, a time when we all become acutely aware of how others see us. Approval or criticism from peers can greatly sway a teenager's self-image. If you were included and popular, you might have developed social confidence. If you felt like an outsider because of your looks, interests, or background, you might have started seeing yourself as not good enough. During those formative years, we often compare ourselves mercilessly to others. Images of who we should be, shaped by friends or by society at large, loom large in our minds. And so, the way we view ourselves often shifts to fit the feedback and comparisons around us. Crucially, what you imagine others think of you can matter even more than what they actually think. Humans are remarkably good at constructing narratives in our own minds. You might remember walking into a room of strangers and feeling convinced that everyone was judging you. In reality, they may have been too preoccupied with their own worries to notice you at all. Yet that internal storyline can make you shrink, reinforcing an identity of being shy or socially awkward. Psychologists sometimes describe this as a mirror we hold up to ourselves, reflecting what we assume others see. Often, that mirror is distorted by fear. We end up seeing ourselves not as we truly are, but as we fear we are seen. Understanding the roots of your self-image can be empowering. It allows you to ask, is this belief about myself accurate? Does it serve me today? You may discover that some beliefs are outdated, formed by a younger version of you, or by the opinions of people no longer in your life. Perhaps you've carried the belief, "I'm bad at relationships," because of a painful experience long ago, even though you've grown since then. Realizing this opens the door to change. You're allowed to update the story. In fact, you have been changing all along. Every challenge you've overcome, every skill you've learned, and every act of kindness you've shown has been quietly editing your self-image, even if you haven't noticed it yet. As you move forward, remember that while you cannot change past influences, you can change how you interpret them now. You decide which influences to give power. One of the most powerful influences on your self-image, fully under your control, is your own self-talk. The voice inside your mind telling your story can reinforce an old image or help craft a new one. Summary: your self-image has been shaped by many forces: family, friends, culture, and the interpretations you gave your experiences. But at the end of the day, your self-image is exactly that: yours. And you have the power to adjust the lens through which you see yourself, bringing the picture of who you are into clearer focus. Chapter 2. The Power of Self-Talk. Every day, a constant stream of thoughts flows through your mind. This running inner commentary is known as self-talk, essentially the conversation you have with yourself. Take a moment to consider the tone of your inner voice. Is it kind and encouraging or critical and harsh? For many people, the inner critic is loud. It might say things like, "There you go again, messing up," or "Why can't you be better?" When this internal dialogue leans negative more often than positive, it slowly chips away at self-esteem. Persistent negative self-talk can erode confidence, dampen mood, and hold you back from pursuing opportunities. It's like having a bully in your own head, undermining you at every turn. Why do we speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to someone we love? Part of the reason is the brain's negativity bias, an evolutionary tendency to focus on threats and flaws. In ancient times, this helped humans survive. Today, it causes us to dwell on one criticism while ignoring many compliments. Over time, thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "I always fail," carve deep mental pathways. Like a trail through a forest, the more you walk it, the easier it becomes to follow. Neurons that fire together wire together. Eventually, self-criticism can feel natural, while self-encouragement feels foreign. The good news is that the brain can learn positivity just as it learned negativity. Your inner voice can be retrained. Think of self-talk as a mental coach that travels with you everywhere. A good coach encourages, focuses and steadies you. A bad one discourages and distracts. You get to choose which voice you reinforce. Positive self-talk is not about denying reality or flattering yourself. It's about offering the same understanding and support you would give a dear friend. Research using brain imaging shows that positive self-talk activates areas responsible for planning and judgment, while calming regions linked to fear and anxiety. Encouraging inner dialogue doesn't just feel better, it helps your brain function better under stress. Athletes have used this for years. Telling yourself, "You've got this," can improve stamina and focus when things get hard. One powerful technique is to speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love, sometimes even using your own name. Instead of "I can't do this," try "You can do this." This creates just enough distance for the encouragement to land more deeply, as if it's coming from a trusted coach or friend. Positive self-talk doesn't mean negative thoughts disappear forever. The goal is simply to make the supportive voice stronger than the critical one. When you make a mistake, you can replace "I'm an idiot" with "I'll learn from this." The situation hasn't changed, but your response has. Over time, this shift reduces stress, builds resilience, and strengthens confidence. Like watering a plant, nurturing words help you grow. Summary: your words to yourself shape how you see yourself and what you believe is possible. When your inner voice becomes a supportive coach instead of a harsh critic, you become calmer, more resilient, and more capable of meeting life's challenges. Chapter 3. Identity is rehearsed, not found. We often hear the advice, "Go find yourself," as if your true identity were a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. But a more useful truth is this: identity is something you create and reinforce through your actions and choices day after day. Who you are is less a fixed noun and more an ongoing verb, a living process. In other words, identity is rehearsed, not found. You become you by repeatedly being you. Consider any skill or role you've taken on in life. If you decide to learn the guitar on day one, you don't yet identify as a guitarist. But if you practice regularly, over time you begin to see yourself as a musician. Why? Because you've built evidence through repeated actions. Psychologists call this self-perception. We come to know who we are by observing what we do. Every action is like casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. Each evening of practice casts a vote for "I am a guitarist." Each act of kindness casts a vote for "I am a caring person." Over time, those votes add up and solidify into belief. Identity doesn't just shape small habits, it influences major life choices. In one study, people asked, "Are you a voter?" were more likely to vote than those asked, "Are you going to vote?" The language of identity changed behavior. When something feels like part of who you are, action follows naturally. Behavior flows from identity. Many people wait to find their identity. hoping it will reveal itself through travel, mentors, or deep reflection. While introspection can offer insight, it doesn't hand you an identity fully formed. Identity crystallizes through experience. You decide who you want to be, then you start living like it in small, consistent ways. At first, it may feel like pretending, but with repetition, the line between trying to be and being begins to blur. Eventually, the identity feels natural because you've practiced it into existence. This also means you're not trapped by parts of your identity you don't like. Maybe you've labelled yourself shy. That label came from past behaviour, but it doesn't have to define your future. You can rehearse a new way of being, one small step at a time, a comment in a meeting, a greeting at a gathering. Each act is a rehearsal. Do it often enough and what once felt unnatural becomes normal. This is not fake it till you make it in the sense of being dishonest. It's the opposite. It's practicing authenticity. You're drawing out qualities that already matter to you by acting on them. Like exercise after a sedentary life, it may feel unfamiliar at first, but consistency turns effort into identity. So ask yourself, what identity do you want to rehearse? Creative, organised, compassionate, confident. Each day offers chances to practice it through small actions. These actions send a clear message to yourself. This is who I am becoming. Over time, a shift happens. You stop trying to be that person. You are that person. Habits stop feeling forced and begin to feel expressive. This is sustained change, when what you do aligns with who you believe you are. Remember, identity works both ways. Negative identities are rehearsed too. But just as they were learned, they can be unlearned. Every moment is a new vote. Summary: you do not passively find yourself, you actively become yourself. Identity is an ongoing practice. Through repeated choices and habits, you rehearse the role of you until it feels natural and true. Chapter 4. The danger of default labels. From childhood onward, many of us accumulate labels, simple words or phrases that we, or others, use to define us. She's the shy one. He's not book smart. They're the troublemaker. These labels can feel convenient, like mental shortcuts to describe identity. But when we accept them without question, when they become our default labels, they can box us in and do real harm. A label is a single story, often based on limited information, yet it can overshadow the full complexity of who you really are. Perhaps someone early in your life said you were bad at sports, and you've carried that label for years, avoiding physical activity because I'm just not athletic. Or maybe you were praised as the responsible one, and now you feel you must always be in control and never ask for help, even when overwhelmed. Labels stick because they are often given when we're young and impressionable. As children, we tend to trust authority figures. If a teacher called you slow in math, you likely accepted it as truth rather than opinion. Over time, I struggle with math can quietly become, I'm not smart. The danger of default labels is that they can become self-fulfilling prophecies. When you believe a label, you act in ways that reinforce it. If you label yourself a procrastinator, you may stop trying to change because you assume it's just who you are. If you think I'm socially awkward, you may avoid social situations, missing opportunities to grow. In believing the label, you close the door to change. You place yourself in a cage that isn't locked, except by belief. Even positive labels can become limiting when they're too rigid. If you've always been the smart one, you may fear challenges where success isn't guaranteed. If you're the peacemaker, you may suppress your own needs to maintain harmony, leading to burnout. The problem with default labels, positive or negative, is that they erase nuance. They don't allow you to be a complex human who can grow, adapt, and change. Breaking free begins with awareness. Listen to your I am statements. I am forgetful. I am bad at relationships. Ask where these conclusions came from. Are they based on a few moments or someone else's judgment? Often, you'll find the label is an oversimplification. Maybe you've been social and confident in many situations, contradicting the label awkward. Or maybe one painful relationship shaped a belief that doesn't reflect who you are now. Once you notice a limiting label, challenge it gently. When you think, I'm lazy, recall evidence to the contrary. Replace the label with a growth-oriented statement. I'm learning, or I can improve. This language leaves room for change. Remember, many labels come from context, not truth. A child labeled too talkative may thrive in a career built on communication. The trait was never wrong, it was misplaced. Releasing labels is like removing an old name tag. It may feel unfamiliar at first, but it gives you space to define yourself on your own terms. Summary: you are more than any single label. When you release the labels that no longer serve you, you create space to grow. By refusing to be defined by one story, you reclaim the freedom to become who you choose. Chapter 5: Your Ideal Self already exists. Many people think of their ideal self as someone far away, a future version that will appear one day after enough success, confidence, or discipline has been achieved. But this way of thinking creates distance where none is necessary. A more empowering truth is this: your ideal self already exists, not as a fantasy, but as a potential version of you waiting to be expressed through action. Your ideal self is not a stranger. It is built from qualities you already possess in small doses, moments when you acted with courage, clarity, or kindness. Think of a time you handled a situation better than expected, spoke up when it mattered, or followed through despite fear. Those moments were not accidents. They were glimpses of who you are capable of being more consistently. The gap between who you are now and who you want to become is not a gap of worth. It's a gap of alignment. Your ideal self thinks, speaks, and behaves in certain ways. The more your daily actions align with that version of you, the more natural it feels to inhabit that identity. You don't become your ideal self all at once. You step into them through choices. One powerful way to access your ideal self is through modeling. Ask yourself, if my ideal self were facing this situation, how would they respond? Would they avoid the conversation or lean into it calmly? Would they speak harshly to themselves or offer encouragement? Each time you act in alignment with that imagined response, you strengthen the connection between who you are and who you are becoming. This process works because the mind responds to familiarity. The more often you visualize yourself acting with confidence, discipline, or compassion, and then follow that visualization with even small actions, the more your brain accepts that identity as real. Over time, the ideal self stops feeling aspirational and starts feeling familiar. It's important to understand that becoming your ideal self does not require perfection. You will still make mistakes. You will still have days when you fall short. The goal is not flawless execution, but consistent alignment. Even imperfect action taken in the direction of your ideal self reinforces the identity you're building. Instead of asking, "How far away am I from who I want to be?" try asking, "What would my ideal self do next?" Then do the smallest version of that action. This keeps identity grounded in the present moment, where change actually happens. Your ideal self is not waiting at the finish line. They are walking with you now, revealed one decision at a time. Summary: your ideal self is not something you must become someday. It is something you express through alignment today. Each choice that reflects your higher values brings that identity into clearer reality. Chapter 6: Designing a Stronger Inner Voice. By now, you understand that the way you talk to yourself has a powerful influence on your self-image and confidence. The question becomes, how do you intentionally craft an inner voice that builds you up instead of tearing you down? Think of this as designing a personal coach who lives in your mind. You want that voice to be strong, kind, and aligned with your goals. It won't happen automatically, but with practice, your inner voice can become one of your greatest assets. The first step is awareness. You cannot change what you don't notice. For a day or two, simply observe your inner dialogue without judgment. Notice what your mind says when you make a mistake, face a challenge, or look in the mirror. You may discover patterns, perhaps a harsh tone at work or self-put-downs in social settings. Writing these thoughts down can make them clearer and reveal where your inner voice is doing more harm than good. Next, decide what you want your inner voice to sound like. Think of someone who encouraged you, a teacher, coach, or mentor, and recall how they spoke. Or imagine an ideal guide whose tone you respect. A strong inner voice is not dishonest or overly soft. It can be firm while still being compassionate. Instead of saying, "That was stupid," it might say, "That didn't go as planned. What can we learn and improve next time?" The message addresses the behavior without attacking your worth. One effective technique is distance self-talk. This means speaking to yourself using your own name or the word you, as if advising a friend. This creates psychological space and reduces emotional intensity. For example, instead of "I'm panicking," you might say, "You're prepared, you can handle this." This shift moves you from a critic mindset into a coach mindset. It's also important to practice supportive self-talk regularly, not just in moments of stress. Set aside a few minutes each day to speak affirming words to yourself, either in writing or aloud. Statements like, "I am capable," "I am learning," or "I handle challenges with courage" may feel awkward at first. That's normal. Think of them as seeds. With repetition, they take root and begin to replace older, harsher scripts. Designing a stronger inner voice does not mean suppressing all negative feelings. Difficult emotions will still arise. The difference is how your inner voice responds to them. A weak inner voice says, "This is hopeless." A strong one says, "This is hard, but I'll find a way forward." The problem may be the same, but the outcome is often very different. A strong inner voice also asks good questions. Instead of declaring failure, it asks, "What went wrong? What do I need right now? What's another perspective?" Questions keep the mind open and adaptive, while harsh statements tend to shut it down. This process takes time. Old habits may resurface, but each moment of redirection strengthens a new pathway. Over time, the encouraging voice grows louder and the critical one quieter. You're shaping the relationship you have with yourself. Summary. With intention and practice, you can design an inner voice that supports you like a trusted mentor. By becoming aware of your self-talk, choosing a kinder tone, and reinforcing it daily, you create a mental ally that builds confidence, resilience, and self-trust. Chapter 7. Identity Anchors. When sailors want to steady a ship, they drop an anchor, a weight that keeps the vessel from drifting with the wind or current. In a similar way, when you are strengthening or reshaping your identity, it helps to have identity anchors, small, tangible reminders that keep you moored to the person you want to be. These anchors can be simple habits, objects, or routines that consistently reconnect you with your chosen identity. Think of them as daily cues that quietly say, "This is who I am." For example, if you're cultivating an identity as a healthy and energetic person, an anchor might be a brisk walk every morning at the same time. That walk is more than exercise. It's a statement to yourself. I take care of my body. If you're developing the identity of a writer, your anchor could be writing a few hundred words each day or carrying a notebook for ideas. Each time you honor the routine, you reinforce the belief, "I am a writer." These anchors work because they are concrete actions in the real world, not just intentions in your mind. Physical objects can also serve as anchors. If you want to be more mindful, you might wear a bracelet or keep a small object in your pocket that reminds you to pause and breathe. Each time you notice it, you reconnect with the identity of being calm and present. If you aspire to be more family-focused, a photo on your desk can act as an anchor, pulling you back to what matters when stress creeps in. Even a simple word or phrase on your mirror can become powerful if it consistently reminds you of who you are becoming. Anchors can be social or environmental as well. If you see yourself as a learner, visiting a library regularly can anchor you in curiosity and growth. If you want to strengthen an identity as a volunteer or leader, a standing commitment each week can anchor that role into your life. Sometimes the people you spend time with act as anchors too. Being around others who embody the identity you want naturally pulls you toward that version of yourself. The beauty of identity anchors is that they outlast motivation. We all have days when we don't feel inspired or confident. On those days, anchors carry us forward. You may not feel like a healthy person one morning, but seeing your running shoes by the door reminds you that this is simply what you do. The anchor holds your identity steady against momentary doubt or resistance. Anchors don't need to be large or time-consuming. They can be small physical cues. If you're building confidence, your anchor might be standing taller when you enter a room. If courage is your focus, it might be a short phrase you repeat before speaking up. These actions take seconds, but repeated consistently, they shape how you see yourself. To create effective anchors, choose actions or reminders that are simple, realistic, and repeatable. An anchor should be something you can encounter often, not something rare. Over time, these anchors become evidence. When your inner critic questions who you are, you can point to what you do. Each anchor becomes a quiet vote for your new identity. Be willing to adjust. If an anchor doesn't fit your life, refine it. Consistency matters more than intensity. With the right anchors in place, your environment and routines begin to support your becoming automatically. Summary: identity anchors are everyday habits and reminders that ground you in who you are becoming. Through simple, consistent cues, you reinforce your chosen identity and stay aligned even when motivation fades. Chapter 8: Mirror Exercises and Voice Affirmations. One of the most direct ways to practice a positive identity is by literally facing yourself and speaking it into existence. This is where mirror exercises and voice affirmations come in. It may feel uncomfortable at first, standing in front of a mirror and talking to yourself, but it can be surprisingly powerful. When you look into your own eyes and affirm your worth and potential, you send a clear message to your mind. This is who I am. Most of us have learned to use mirrors as tools for criticism. We notice flaws, fatigue, or signs of aging, and our inner voice often follows with judgment. Mirror exercises reverse that pattern. They invite you to meet yourself with kindness instead of critique, and to practice speaking encouragement in the very moment you are most aware of yourself. Here is a simple mirror exercise. Find a quiet space and stand comfortably in front of a mirror. Make eye contact with yourself and take a breath. Then say something affirming and sincere as if speaking to someone you deeply care about. It might be as simple as, "I am proud of you," or "You're doing your best and that matters." These words may feel unfamiliar or emotional at first. That's a sign you're touching something real. When practiced daily, even briefly, mirror work creates noticeable shifts. You become aware of how rarely you offer yourself reassurance. You begin to replace silence or self-criticism with acknowledgement. Over time, the words land with greater conviction. The goal is not false praise, but genuine support. If you struggle to find kind words, imagine what you would want a trusted mentor or loved one to say to you, and say that. Using your own name can deepen the effect. Saying, "Your name, I believe in you," or "Your name, you are worthy," can make the affirmation feel more personal and grounding. It activates the same emotional pathways that respond to encouragement from others. Beyond the mirror, voice affirmations can be practiced anywhere. These are positive statements you repeat consistently to reinforce identity. For example, "I am resilient," or "I handle challenges with calm and confidence." The power lies not just in the words, but in repetition and feeling. You don't need to fully believe them at first. You're not lying. You are planting seeds. With time, your mind begins to accept what you repeatedly affirm. If speaking aloud feels awkward, begin by writing affirmations. Write a few supportive statements each day. As you grow more comfortable, say them quietly to yourself. Notice how your body responds. Often, your posture shifts, your breath deepens, and tension softens. That is your nervous system responding to reassurance. Tailor affirmations to what you genuinely need. If fear is present, affirm courage. If self-worth is shaky, affirm value. Place reminders where you'll see them, on a mirror, desk, or bedside. These cues reinforce the practice. Over time, the mirror becomes a place of reconnection rather than judgment. The goal is not self-absorption, but self-trust. When you consistently speak to yourself with respect and encouragement, you become steadier. External criticism and temporary setbacks lose their power because you have anchored yourself in an inner voice that supports you. Summary: speaking to yourself with kindness, through mirror work or daily affirmations, reinforces your identity and worth. By repeating supportive truths, you weaken old patterns of self-criticism and strengthen belief in who you are becoming. Chapter 9: Resilience. Through identity, life will test us. Jobs can be lost, relationships strained, health challenged. In those moments, a strong sense of identity acts like a shock absorber, helping you bend without breaking. Resilience is often described as the ability to bounce back, but what's less discussed is how deeply resilience is tied to identity. When you know who you are at your core and who you're committed to becoming, you face hardship with greater stability. Instead of thinking, "This defines me," you can say, "I'm still me, and I will get through this." Identity shapes how you respond to difficulty. If you see yourself as a problem solver, challenges become puzzles rather than dead ends. If you identify as a survivor, setbacks activate determination instead of despair. Your self-image becomes a lens. When that lens includes "I am capable and adaptable," adversity is met with persistence rather than paralysis. Resilience is strengthened when identity is broad, not narrow. If your entire sense of self rests on one role, your career, your success, or another external marker, then a loss in that area can feel devastating. But when your identity includes multiple roles and sources of meaning, one setback does not collapse your entire sense of self. You may be a professional, but also a parent, a friend, a learner, a creator. One area may suffer, but the whole of who you are remains intact. Values play a crucial role in resilient identity. When you know what principles define you, such as honesty, compassion, or creativity, you can lean into them during difficult times. Someone who values creativity may process pain through art or writing. Someone who values compassion may find strength in helping others. In this way, adversity becomes an opportunity to express core values, reinforcing identity rather than diminishing it. Building identity intentionally, as you've been doing throughout this book, creates resilience in advance. You're shaping an inner narrative that supports you before life demands it. Imagine two people facing rejection. One believes their worth depends on success. The other believes they are persistent and growing. The same setback hits both, but the second recovers faster because their identity remains intact. Their self-definition fuels their next step forward. In difficult moments, it helps to affirm your identity deliberately. Remind yourself who you are. I am resilient. I am resourceful. I move forward even when it's hard. This isn't empty encouragement. It's grounding. It pulls you out of chaos and roots you in your core self. Resilient identity is also flexible. When identity is too rigid, change feels threatening. But when identity is built on values and character rather than specific outcomes, it adapts. Instead of "I am the top performer," you hold "I give my best effort." One can be broken by circumstance, the other endures. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you recover after feeling it. A strong identity doesn't make you rigid. It makes you grounded. Like a tree in a storm, you may bend, but you remain rooted. Each challenge you survive becomes evidence. Over time, resilience strengthens identity, and identity strengthens resilience. They reinforce each other. Summary: a well-rooted identity steadies you in life's storms. When you know who you are and what you stand for, challenges no longer define you. By cultivating a flexible, value-driven identity, you build resilience that allows you to bend without breaking. Chapter 10: Identity Rehearsal Plan. You've journeyed through understanding and reshaping your self-image, self-talk, and daily habits. Now it's time to bring everything together into a practical plan, a simple structure for continuously rehearsing the identity you want to live. Think of this as a personal training program for becoming who you choose to be. Just as an actor rehearses a role until it feels natural, you will rehearse your identity until it feels like home. Here is a simple, workable plan you can return to again and again. First, define your core identity values. Write down 3 to 5 qualities that describe your ideal self. These might be words like confident, kind, disciplined, creative, patient, or courageous. These values are the pillars of the identity you are strengthening. Clarity here gives you direction. Second, craft an identity statement. Write one short sentence that captures who you are becoming. Keep it present tense and affirmative. For example, I am a calm, resilient person who faces challenges with courage, or I am a disciplined and creative person who shows up consistently. This statement becomes your compass. Read it often. Third, audit your self-talk. For 1 week, notice harsh or limiting thoughts when they appear. When you catch one, gently replace it with a constructive alternative. I always mess things up becomes I'm learning and improving. This trains your inner voice to support growth instead of sabotage. Fourth, practice a daily mirror affirmation. Once a day, spend a minute or two speaking affirming words to yourself while making eye contact. Use your name if it helps. Speak in alignment with your identity statement. Consistency matters more than perfection. Fifth, install identity anchors into your routine. Choose at least 2 small daily habits that symbolize who you are becoming, one in the morning and one in the evening if possible. These might be journaling, movement, prayer, reflection, or any action that reinforces your values. Schedule them so they become automatic. 6th, hold a weekly identity reflection. Set aside 15 minutes once a week to ask yourself, when did I act like my ideal self this week? And where did I drift? Note both without judgment. Celebrate progress. Adjust gently. 7th, allow evolution. Identity rehearsal is not rigid. As you grow, some values may change or deepen. Update your identity statement. Replace anchors that no longer fit. This plan serves you, not the other way around. Be patient with yourself. Rehearsal means you won't get it right every time. There will be days when you forget an affirmation or fall back into old habits. What matters is direction, not perfection. Over time, the identity that once felt aspirational will feel natural. Acting out of alignment will feel strange. Remember, identity work is ongoing. You're never finished. You're becoming. With the tools you've practiced, you now have the ability to consciously shape each new chapter of who you are. Summary. When you rehearse identity consistently, through values, self-talk, habits, and reflection, you become what you practice. Stay patient, stay consistent, and remember, you are the author of your story. If this audiobook has supported your growth, consider subscribing to Be Believe, Become TV for more teachings you can return to and live by.